You guys doing your Christmas holiday shindig? Just do it over with Limestone, didn't you? Yeah. Minutes. I don't know. Because we've seen each other a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was not that nice.
The cities.
Oh yeah, I was there. You start playing with knives.
22, 23 years old.
Get a little crazy. You get kind of a sallow. Pardon? You get this kind of moon glow looking complexion. I think.
All the night people are sleeping. That's whenever they caught me sleeping. I said, well, I'm a night person.
We recognize that everyone has a busy schedule here, so we're going to try to move aggressively through the balance of our agenda. And we're very, very pleased today that Jeffrey Collins, the U.S. Attorney for Detroit, is here. And I'd like to ask him to come up and make a few remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank you so much for inviting our office to be a part of this program. I've already picked up some excellent tips from Project Exile that hopefully we'll be able to incorporate and make the program here in Detroit, which is called Project Safe Neighborhoods, even better. One thing that impressed me as I heard Mr. Hicks and James Comey speak was the passion, the fire in the belly to make this program work. And I'd just like to say that here in the Eastern District of Michigan, that the stakeholders here share in that same passion and that same commitment. And I really think to show that was evident during the summer when in the middle of the night, the mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick, placed a phone call to myself, to Wayne County Prosecutor Mike Duggan, where he had just left the scene of a shooting, and he asked us, along with Chief Oliver, to meet with him the following morning in his office to discuss and devise strategies and solutions to these increased fatalities. And of course, we were all there. And when we met that following morning, we met throughout that whole week. I don't know who was paying for lunch or for breakfast, but I think we worked through lunch and worked through breakfast. But we came up with, a collaborative, working, trustful relationship. I think came about from that initial phone call. There is a positive working relationship between the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office and our office. Since we've kicked off Project Safe Neighborhoods, we have received over 100 referrals of cases to be prosecuted federally. Both in my office and in Mike Duggan's office, we have a point of contact to determine whether or not the case should go federally or state, to see where we get the biggest bang for the buck. When cases come our way, we've had a very high rate of detention, pretrial detention of offenders, and also that the sentence is consistent with that 60-month average, which James Comey spoke about. The federal bench has not thrown their arms up in opposition to this program. When I first came on board, I made a point to go over and meet with the judges and explain that this, next to counterterrorism, is our top priority. Lawyers in our office, likewise, have not been adverse to prosecuting these cases. We got 6 lawyers who are dedicated to doing nothing but gun cases, and they can take even a lot more. So on the enforcement side, Project Safe Neighborhoods in our district is up and running. On the prevention side, in this first year, we have basically been getting the message out through good old-fashioned shoe leather. Chief Oliver suggested a program which we kicked off called Face to Face, where we go to all of the precincts in the city of Detroit and meet with those who are on probation or parole for a gun offense. And we tell them the facts of life. If you get caught with another gun case while you're on probation or parole, you would then face the wrath of a federal prosecution. We've also reached an agreement with the Michigan Department of Corrections for whenever an offender is released out of state custody, as a part of their discharge package, they're given information about Project Safe Neighborhoods. Also, just this past Monday, we were out in Inkster speaking to police chiefs and mayors in Western Wayne County about Project Safe Neighborhoods, and they just took a whole armful of posters and literature to help get the word out. And we have also just recently, within the last month, selected an advertising agency called Goodwin and Associates. We have a public awareness committee that we want to get this message out that was done so well in Richmond. And this advertising agency we have on board, and we look forward to next year taking our advertising to another level. We are still awaiting a little seed money from the Department of Justice, a little gas in the tank to get this going. But in the interim, even though as DOJ employees we cannot go out and solicit, this public awareness committee this Friday will be in Flint making a pitch to the Mott Foundation, and I just hope to be a fly on the wall during that, but we hope to be able to start getting some monies in to get the message out. So on the enforcement side and the prevention side, Project Safe Neighborhoods is up and running here. We want to make it even better. Mike Duggan, Greg Holley from ATF, and myself, we all work well together, and we want to continue to do our very best. It's our responsibility to do everything we possibly can to make this a safe district. So thank you for having me, and I'm sorry I cannot stay for the remainder of the program.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Well, before we introduce our next speaker, I'm very pleased to see the Mayor's Chief of Staff here, Christine Beatty. Would you just raise your hand? Everybody to see her representing Mayor Kilpatrick here today. Let me continue our program by asking Michael Duggan to come up and make a few brief comments or respond to any of the things that he's heard so far from our speakers.
Well, good afternoon. I had a chance to hear David Hicks and Jim Comey about a year ago at a National Training Institute. Jerry Oliver was supposed to be on that panel. He didn't show up that day. They said he was somewhere at a job interview, didn't disclose the location. And the day after, I've listened to it, all I heard was Jerry Oliver was like God, the way David Hicks and Jim Comey talked about it. The next day, Mayor Kilpatrick announces that he hired him as the police chief, and it has worked out extremely well for all of us. I've learned a lot from the experience in Richmond and the things that we're doing. We're making some progress. We started here, and what they talked about is absolutely true. You got to change the culture. And the year before I came into office, 400 people had been convicted of felony firearm. We're in a little better shape than Richmond was. We have a felony firearm law that says if you're convicted of using a gun in a felony or being a felon with a gun, it's a mandatory 2 years in prison. The judge has no choice. They didn't have that in Richmond. And I couldn't figure out why with all these crimes we only had 400. And as you look at it, it was basically what Jim Comey said. The prosecutors would tell me, hey, we prosecute so many people that have shot somebody that we find a guy who just has a gun in his belt, we give him probation as a reward for not using it. And that was basically it, except that police officer Sean Bandy, who was murdered in a traffic stop on a Sunday morning, gunned down by 4 people in a van. 3 of the people in that van had been charged with felony firearm, had it reduced to concealed weapon, and been given probation. My first month on the job, Officer Neil Wells murdered in a drug raid by a guy who had been charged with felony firearm, had it pled down to concealed weapon on probation. It was the philosophy. And so we said, we're going to change it. That a felon with a gun is a future murderer, and we're going to treat him that way. And Maurice Morton was there at the first meeting with the judges when I announced we were going to do this, and the judges said, well, we're going to teach you a little bit about this system. Because we're not going to try all those cases, because if you don't drop the 2-year felony charges, all these people will demand a trial, and that will clog up the court system. We can't have this. These pleas of probation are what keep it working. And so I did what I said. We didn't plead it. We found very quickly, as I tracked the records, we were getting convictions in about 30% of the cases, at least convictions of felony firearms, in so-called waiver trials. And so I started talking to the trial prosecutors. How come we keep charging this and the judge finds him not guilty of the felony firearm, finds him guilty of carrying a concealed weapon, give him probation? I said, well, the judge is cutting him a waiver break. You got to understand, most of these cases, cop stops a guy in a car with a gun, the case takes an hour to try. It takes 4 hours to pick a jury. Judge wants to go home. So there's an understanding here that if the defense attorney will waive the jury, the judge will find him guilty of a lesser charge. He gets probation, they all go home. I said, well, guys, we can't do that. I want you to stand up to the judges. Under Michigan law, we can demand a jury. They said, yeah, right. You demand a jury as a prosecutor, you can't appear in that judge's courtroom again. About 6 months into last year, we had a young guy fresh out of law school by the name of Aronde Patterson, brand new prosecutor, didn't know any better. In a courtroom, we got a case. Police stop a guy, find a gun in the car, drugs in the car, they arrest him, he confesses. In Wayne County, that means you plead not guilty. And that's what he did. So they got to the day of trial, and the judge said to Aronde, I want you to drop the felony firearm charge, let him plead to possession of the drugs. And Aronde said, no, I can't do that. Policy is, we don't drop the felony firearm charge. Judge says, fine, we're having a trial this afternoon. Kid stands up and says, Judge, I'm demanding a jury. He says, you can't do that. He says, yeah, actually I can, and hands the judge the statute. And the judge, for the first time, saw that a prosecutor in Michigan could demand a jury. Had never heard of it before. The judge screamed, yelled, and hollered, and our guy decided, he could see what was going to happen. He was not going to let this guy go. He says, Judge, I don't care what you say. I'm within my rights. I'm demanding a jury. Finally, the judge got furious. He said, all right, we're ordering a jury. We're picking it this afternoon. And the defense attorney stood up and said, Judge, my guy was caught with drugs. He was caught with a gun, and he confessed. We don't have anything to say to a jury. Could we just plead guilty to the 2 years? And we did. And when Aronde Patterson came back and told that story, the senior prosecutors in the office, I think, felt a little bit ashamed that they hadn't been standing up to the judges. In 2000, we had 400 felony firearm convictions. Last year, we had 600. This year, we are going to pass 1,200 felony firearm convictions. And it is a matter of just aggressively getting in there every day and challenging the judges and doing a good job. In March, we started Project Safe Neighborhoods with the U.S. Attorney's Office and with the Detroit Police Department. And the program we've got sounds, David, like the kind of thing that you have right now. We actually, every day, sit down in every case and say, where will they get more time? And we have a prosecutor who's a former defense attorney by the name of Darrell Carson, who coordinates this. And what happens is really fascinating. We arrest the guy, and within 1 week, we say to him, you can plead guilty to 2 years in the state system and go away today, or we'll send you to the feds. Now, we look at the stuff ahead of time. If it's a 5 to 10 year federal sentence, we send those people directly to the feds. If it's going to be a 2 to 5 year federal sentence, we just as soon have the immediate sentence right now. And so Darrell sits down with the defense attorneys and says, here's your federal guideline, here's your state guideline, what do you want to do? And it's been terrific. We've got another 100 cases over on the federal side. To give you an idea of the culture change, one of the prosecutors the other day handed me a transcript from a preliminary exam that they had at 36 District Court a few weeks ago. And let me just read you the testimony of that transcript. The officer's testifying that he made an arrest and he confiscated a blue steel automatic from the closet in the hall. Question, in the hallway. Answer, yes, sir. And what, if anything, occurred when you recovered it? Answer, once I found the gun, I showed the defendant. He started yelling, you found my gun. I can't take a gun case. He started banging his head up against the wall. The judge says, I'm sorry. And the prosecutor says, would you repeat that? He says, I showed him the gun I found in the closet. He said, you found my gun. I can't take a gun case. He started banging his head up against the wall, so we had to restrain him. We're starting to make a difference. And I know Chief Oliver and the mayor aren't ready to declare success, and neither am I. But what's happening here is extraordinary. The mayor called us together last summer because of all the kids being shot. In the last 90 days, we've seen a 30% drop in homicide in this city. In the last 30 days, we've seen a 40% drop. I think a huge amount of it had to do with what the mayor and the chief did on Angels Night, with all of that visibility in the community coming together. But we really are starting to make a difference here. We need more than 90 days before we stand up and declare victory. But you have the federal government, the state government, the mayor and the chief together. And I think we've got it heading in the right direction. And I really appreciate, David, you guys coming down and doing this here, because you've been an inspiration to all of us who are doing this. Thank you.
Greg Holley, Special Agent in charge of ATF, would you come up and just make a few brief comments, and then we'll go with our discussion.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you inviting me today. When I first looked at the agenda and they had me going last before lunch, I was a little worried that I'd be standing between you and eating. Well, now I'm last after you ate, so now I'm standing between you and maybe going to sleep. So, no, but the one thing the two things that have stood out today to me throughout this whole presentation is the theme of commitment and cooperation. And in order to make this a successful program, you have to have all the parties to be honest brokers, first of all, and to be committed and to cooperate with one another. When I first got here in Detroit 4 years ago, one of the outstanding things that I noticed was the cooperation between all the law enforcement. It was unprecedented. I've spent time in Atlanta, spent time in Chicago, spent time in Washington, D.C. But the amount of cooperation between state, local, and federal law enforcement here was outstanding. And it continues to be that way today. ATF has always had firearms in their title since it became a bureau in 1971. And firearms violence and firearms laws have been our expertise since that time, since that time. And when we see firearms violence taking tolls on lives and running rampant in cities all over the country, we take it very serious and we take it very personal, because we are considered the firearms experts and the firearms police. So when we get an opportunity to come to the table, to bring our expertise, to bring a problem under control, we are 100% committed. We are 100% dedicated to reducing firearms violence. Our strategy is to deny criminals firearms, to protect the public. And when we get an opportunity to come to the table, we bring all our resources to bear to ensure that we can do that. And what I like to encourage everybody to remember that is that when you have firearms violations or you have firearms problems, don't forget to bring ATF to the table. Because we've been doing this for quite a long time, and we do have a lot of expertise and a lot of information and a lot of help that we can bring to the table, not only in arresting folks, but in preventing firearms violence. We have gun safety programs that we put on throughout the country. We have a great program, our gang resistance education program, where we go into the school systems and we teach kids and we teach police officers a curriculum that keeps kids out of trouble, keeps kids from joining gangs. We have a proper conflict resolution portion to that program that is just outstanding, where we go in and we teach young kids about conflict resolution, how to resolve problems. So we not only are committed, we're not only committed to arresting folks, but we're also committed to preventing crimes, preventing firearms violence throughout the community. When Jerry Oliver came to the city of Detroit, I was ecstatic because I knew what Project Exile was all about. And I was looking forward to working with him to reduce this problem here in the city of Detroit. And ATF will remain committed to this relationship. We will remain committed to this program. That's our number one priority, Project Safe Neighborhoods. And all of our expertise will be dedicated to this program. Thank you very much.
Well, this is really a discussion phase. I know everybody's pressed to get out of here, but if there are any pressing issues or questions that you'd like to ask before we begin the process of closing out, please ask them now. You can have our speakers to respond to them. Okay, let me make a few brief comments, and then we'll ask Chief Oliver to come up here and close us out. One of the things that's clear from the presentations to me is an old adage that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. We have a lot of strengths in our institutions that really undergird the democratic republic that we enjoy, all the rights and freedoms and liberties here. But the question, the challenge for us is how do we get these things to work together in some kind of a cohesive manner. And in listening to the speakers, I was reminded of his comment by Martin Luther King in his great book, The Strength to Love. Quoting the philosopher Hegel, he said that no man is strong unless he has built within his character antithesis strongly marked. So it's really a big question of the differences that we have being merged into some kind of a continuum where we can find some way to work together collectively towards a common goal and purpose, in spite of the statutory responsibilities that we have that might be different, the differences that we have in terms of our duties, etc. All of these things pale in the light of the problems that we confront that we cannot deal with individually. One of the things that the Safe Neighborhood Program does is bring that possibility together. And we're all deeply pleased that Carl P., the director of the Office of Community-Oriented Policing, has funded this project. And that we have the leadership that we now enjoy here in the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan to make a difference with respect to guns and violence. This will not be done by these agencies alone. It's a collective effort, and no matter what we do, we must always remember that the bottom line is the community, the people that we service. These are the people that must be a part of the problem, of the process of finding a solution to these complex and difficult problems that we face. So having said that now, I'd like to ask our Chief of Police for Detroit, Jerry, come and make a few closing remarks.
Thank you, Hubert. Rather than do closing remarks, if I could just take just a few more minutes here. This room, we have too many talented, involved people in the room to close out without hearing from some of you about at least reacting to what you've heard today. If there were any juices that were sort of ignited, I guess that's an interesting metaphor, juices ignited, or any kind of thoughts or ideas that you might have that you can share as we try to move forward. I'm interested in your reaction to what was said, both from the Project Safe Neighborhood side and from the Project Exile side before we leave. So is there anyone, Karen, from the mayor's office, anyone, Chuck?
One of the things I think are key that you touched on is meeting with individuals in their own neighborhoods in a house, having that fried chicken or a little bit of dinner. I've been involved in community policing crime prevention for the last 25 years, and I know that you can certainly get the support of that community. And I've heard you tell the story about Christy Green several times, and I think that says it all. We got the community support out there. They will work for us and on our behalf. So I think those personal touches at those individual meetings, when we have the opportunity, will work. And I think oftentimes we need to not just have that be from just the police end, but from the people that are in this room, to bring some folks from the other entities in city government or certainly county government as well as the federal level. This past Saturday we had a non-fatal triple shooting in the 4th precinct that happened early in the afternoon. And as a direct result of a community prosecutor assigned by Mike Duggan to work in the 4th precinct, along with some of our plainclothes units, as well as community people that were parting with information because we were involved in. We had the guy turn himself in that same night. So yes, it can work.
Okay.
Well, of course, I think it's, I've gotten some wonderful information.
I'm not sure if they can hear you in the back.
I've gotten some wonderful information out of it. And a lot of this, we've talked about the biggest challenge because on the law enforcement end, the commitment is there, and I think the interest is there on the part of the community. But I think that for so long, people are accustomed, the apathy has started to become encrypted in behavior. And I think that changing the culture is our biggest challenge. But I think that there are a lot of good components. And it's going to be just tapping into that and getting people to start to think differently. And I think that the mayor is showing kind of leadership and doing things different so that we can, get the kind of results that we all work toward. So I'm confident with that and your leadership and creativity that we will be able to do something. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Good. Billy, what do you think?
Represent Children's Aid Society. We are a voice for children here in Michigan, and we fully support the mayor and Chief Oliver in every effort to bring the community to the table, as well as advocate on behalf of children and families. So we really appreciate being here, being a part of this safe community.
Pastor, I think as I look around, you're one of the few reverends that are left. We have several here.
Yes, Chief Oliver, on behalf of our community, which is the west side of Detroit, where the Unity Baptist Church focuses a lot on its community involvement in the 10th precinct. First of all, we want to thank you for bringing back one of our own into the community, Commander Gary Christian, whom we are already impressed with. He was at a community meeting yesterday doing just what you're saying, the face-to-face contact with the old and the new, and just being here today, I'm just caught up in the spirit, and I really want to thank you, and indeed, on behalf of the clergymen in Detroit, most importantly, the Council of Baptist Pastors, I'll pass the word on, and we look forward to one of your representatives, or even you, coming to present to the Council of Baptist Pastors.
One of the, around the country, and there are probably some cities that are more known than others for their relationships with the faith community and the achievements that the faith community has made. People usually point to Boston when they talk about the 10-point plan and that kind of thing. But when we look at it, we can't get there without, especially in the African American community, without the faith community being involved. We can't get there. We will never make a difference if we don't have the pastors, the reverends, and members of all of the denominations at the table helping. One of the things I notice, and I know that everybody comments on this when they come to this city, particularly Detroit, is that really just about every corner we have a church or a religious institution of some sort. One of the things that I'd like to talk to the clergy about is this idea of adopting the block, that every church would adopt just the block that they sit on. Nothing else. We're not going to ask you to do anything beyond that, but just adopt the block and ensure that all of the human services, social services needs are met on that block, up and including, in the mayor's program of Kids, Cops, and Clean would be a great symbol for the religious community to sort of accept and sort of embrace, in the sense that we will not have any children on our block that will go wanting. We will not have a block that's dirty, at least that hasn't been given some attention to in terms of cleaning, and that we would partner with the police on some of these really criminal or more dangerous issues that we've got to address, drugs and guns and so forth. If we could just get that done, I think in the blocks that just surround each one of the institutions, I think we'd take giant steps forward. So I am very interested in developing the kind of relationship that with the faith community that I think will be helpful. Now I know that later today we'll be, because Director Pete is here, Carl Pete from the OCOPS in Washington, we will be announcing a grant that we'll be receiving through the Police Foundation to gain some reconnaissance and help us plan and probably strategize as to how we can do a better job of not only relating to the community but relating to each other in terms of different disciplines, and how we can bring those, get the synergy, the power of those disciplines to really make a difference in the city. It's all about information and relationships. So we're looking forward to developing a better relationship with the faith community. What about some of the outside agencies? Or did you have your hand up, sir?
Yes, I'm Jerome Drain with Operation Lead Seat in Highland Park, Michigan. And about a year and a half ago, we were at an accreditation series for Weed and Seed, which was a week-long accreditation. During that series, we actually had the Virginia Weed and Seed site in our sessions. So we learned a lot about Project Exile during that time frame. But for some of you that may not know a lot about Operation Weed and Seed, it's about 271 sites throughout the United States that are up under the Department of Justice. And with Weed and Seed, the weeding side of that deals with law enforcement. So the significance behind that is, of course, to weed out the negative elements in the community and then to seed in positive reinforcements. We've been privileged to have, of course, the U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Collins, who have, on a number of occasions, been able to come to the city of Highland Park. And many of you that are in this room are familiar with some of the incidents that are happening in the city of Highland Park, specifically that deal with law enforcement. So Project Exile and Project Safe Neighborhoods, of which we're a part of right now, are initiatives and strategies that will directly impact the city of Highland Park. And I say that because we have worked on a number of projects already that deal with the community buying into the Project Safe Neighborhoods initiative. And I say that because they have had a number of programs to come along in past years that have been there for 1 year, maybe 2 years, and then they go by the wayside. And as Ms. Dumas had indicated, the apathy is there, and in order to get the residents to continue to be a part of a strategy, they have to see some results. And already with the Project Safe Neighborhoods and some of the strategies from Operation Weed and Seed, they're seeing that. So they're buying into the overall strategy. And I would like to thank you guys, because we had some back and forth with the site from Virginia, because, I mean, their take on Project Exile was that this was the best thing since sliced bread. And coming from the Midwest in Detroit and Highland Park, we were saying, well, that's fine, but that will not work here. And it has proven that, indeed, it can work here.
Well,
so I look forward to working with you.
Great, thank you. You know, I see Pam in the back, you representing the sheriff. You see any reaction from the sheriff's department on how we more closely work together on some of these issues we've been talking about?
Yes, I've been to quite a few meetings, particularly since 911, in which the Wayne County Sheriff's Department is finally being brought to the table with a lot of the federal, as well as the, as well as with the local law enforcement agencies. And basically, we're here to say, of course, as you know, that we're getting a new sheriff in January. And he is committed to working with everyone, whatever it is, whatever resources we can offer. I'm here to offer that on behalf of the sheriff, which will probably Warren Evans, hopefully, in January.
You've been reading the newspaper too, huh?
Is that tape? But no, I just thank you for the invitation, and hopefully, like I said, with Greg Holley, we're always involved, and hopefully people will continue to call upon us to come offer suggestions or just involve us in various task forces, whatever it is that you would like for us to do, we are here to serve and hopefully be used as a resource.
And the sheriff brings lots of resources, as does the state police. And in the Project Exile format, we didn't talk much about state police, but state police was a key partner when they came to the table because they brought a lot of resources, technology resources, in some cases manpower, and more than not just in terms of the analysis, the ability to analyze some of the data that we needed. Your reaction from the state police in terms of the resources and how we might better partner?
Okay, Chief, one of the things I was saying to Commander McClain here was that I learned a whole lot about Project Safe Neighborhoods today than I knew. I hadn't heard about the ins and outs of that. I just heard the phrase, Project Safe Neighborhoods. And a lot of the complaints that I hear from troopers is that, nothing's going to be done to these people that I arrest and that sort of thing. So when the Prosecutor Duggan talked about, the changes there that, the effort that's going into to charging people and prosecuting people, that's something that the troopers need to hear, and I don't know what kind of representation the state police has had in your meetings. I was directed to come here, and I'm glad I was.
That's what happens in the state police, you get directed.
Exactly, you get directed to come here, but, I've been labeled as this community liaison person and media person, that sort of thing, so I want to become more personally involved in the whole project altogether. A lot of frustration from the troopers is also that they come from outstate posts, and most people don't know this, but troopers outside of the Detroit metro area are full-service police officers. From dog bites to homicides, they take it from beginning to end. And their frustration down here is that, we grab somebody and we turn them over to somebody. We never see what happens to them. And this is something where I see them having an opportunity to get a little more involved in the community, contact with the community and community relations, because they've been taken out of that community policing when they come down here to the metro area. So I'm glad to hear of the project, and again, I just want to take a more personal role in getting involved in the whole project altogether.
Great, thank you so much. Anybody else from some of the other agencies that are here? We're represented quite a few people from the other agencies in Wayne County. Any reaction, comments, ways of partnering? Chief.
Sure, I know you can. I'm Emery Price. I'm the Chief of Police of the City of Westland. The commander from the Sheriff's Department mentioned September the 11th. As tragic as that was for all of us, and that includes the troopers, the locals, officers in Wayne County have been going through that same problem you're talking about for a long time. So it's nothing new. But what September 11th did for people in law enforcement, it brought us all closer together. I find in all my years of experience of dealing in law enforcement, I have never seen the federal, state, and locals be as consolidated and working together as they are now. I know that the date itself was a tragic date, but there was something that came out of it, I think, that we can work for. For those that aren't not aware, this is the second meeting this week over this topic of the gun, charging federally with gun charges. My department certainly is in favor of it, whatever we can do, and we will. And we have to. We've been working with the federal agents a lot out on the west side, and we certainly will continue to do that. Whatever we can do to support this effort. But my only thing is, all my years, and you've been at it a long time too, it's got to leave this room. It can't just stay here. If we leave it here, it's not going to accomplish it.
Great. And one of the things I was going to sort of end with, maybe turning to, since Jeff had to leave, but you could maybe talk just a little bit about some of the other efforts that you guys do, because I know Jeff didn't get to the committee and all that. If you could talk a little bit about that, maybe that's the way that people can link up and help get that off the ground or support that.
Sure. I think a major theme of Project Safe Neighborhoods and its predecessor, Project Exile, is partnerships. And we already have a lot of folks working in partnership together. We need more. That's why we reached out to the Western Wayne County folks earlier in the week. We have a public awareness committee that I think we had our first meeting last June. We have representatives on that committee from a number of law enforcement groups, from the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, We want to reach out and be even more inclusive. We'd love to have, for example, somebody from DPD sitting on our committee on a regular basis. As we told the folks in Western Wayne County, open invitation. We'll let you know when the meeting is. We're trying to set up geographically based working groups as subcommittees of the Public Awareness Committee, because I know it's sometimes, it's a big district, and for us, although we're definitely focusing on Detroit and the Detroit metropolitan area, we also have the rest of the district to consider as well. So we're trying to set up working groups in Flint, Western Wayne County, Macomb County, Oakland County. Again, we want to reach out and become partners with folks in those areas as well. Sitting next to me here today is our Project Sentry Coordinator, Nosiba Gordon, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what Nosiba's been doing. She has put together, first of all, her position is a position that was funded specially to work on an issue that we're all concerned about, and that's gun violence among school-age youth. Nosiba has put together a fantastic program for middle school students. The general format is a 3-day, 1-hour-a-day program that involves a skit, discussion groups with the kids, representatives from the prosecutor's office, from Detroit Receiving Hospital, from ATF, all do a wonderful job of putting together a program for middle school students. We'd like to, we started that in our weed and seed sites, as Jerome Drain said. We have been partners with our weed and seed folks for several years now, and they were the first partners in the community that we reached out to, but we would like to bring, we'd like to reach out even beyond the weed and seed sites and bring Project Sentry into more schools in the district. So we've done a lot. As Karen said, there's a whole lot more to do. We have to change a culture here. And I guess partnerships are the way to go, as the folks in Richmond have reminded us here today. And thanks again to you guys for coming in for this. We really appreciate it.
Well, let me just ask this. Is it an opportunity for people who are here that may want to, now that we've got sort of maybe the blood running warm in their veins, so to speak, that people may want to kind of sign up for it? Maybe, I don't know, Karen, is anybody from the mayor's office actually involved in this part of it? Do you know?
In what part of it?
And what she's describing?
We have been partnering with the mayor's office as well in meetings at the mayor's office. So yes, we've definitely been working with them. I didn't bring a sign-in sheet. How about if I just give everyone and I don't have enough business cards, give everyone my telephone number. It's 313-226-9770. Or if you all have business cards, if you're interested in being part of the Public Awareness Committee, bring me your business cards. That way we can get you on the list and broaden our partnerships in that regard.
Yeah, I think that would be really important. Chris, you have your hand up.
Well, actually, when you asked about the partnership between the mayor's office, I was kind of going to elaborate also. Yeah, we are partnering with Pamela Aspect, and the U.S. Attorney's Office has a large responsibility for their district. And clearly what we're focused on is the city of Detroit and building the coalitions around the city. And kind of into that, the biggest piece that's missing in our eye is the publicity portion. And I talk when Mike is gone, I see Mike Duggan is getting that word out there and being able to appeal, first of all, to youth about violence. And we're kind of taking it now to the next thing of the value of life. I mean, a lot of it is centered around kids not having the thing in their mind that I'm shooting this guy now, but what happens after that to my life and his life? So we're kind of focusing the community aspect on that, pulling, like you said, the pastors together. That is one portion, but all of it has to be centered around the message. Like Mike talked about the reduction in homicides, and Chief, you're more than aware of that and what you all have been doing to do that. But since Angels Night alone, with the community presence, a lot of it is tied back to linking into the community. And I think that's the biggest message of all we had. And David, I don't know, we had 40,000 volunteers out on our Angels Night here.
huge commitment from the city of Detroit people, basically to say, we don't want arson in our city anymore. I mean, I think that was the biggest stance of all, but people felt more than we're out here to stop arson. It was just the community feeling, I think, that everybody felt. Those people who came into the city and volunteered, residents, I think that's kind of the real angle that the mayor's office is focusing on this point, is to rally together the community to say, this isn't what, like you said earlier, Chief, the enforcement is in place. It's all about the community portion now. The partnerships reach way beyond the U.S. Attorney, the Chief, the Prosecutor. It's all about the pastors now, the community groups, and bringing those groups to the table to start that coalition to say, how do we get the word out there to our children? And the biggest part has to be DPS. We can't do anything without the school system. So creating those partnerships is really our focus now. So pulling that group in is going to have to widen. So Pam's office is the overall umbrella organization, but again, you have different groups focusing. I'm sure Western Wayne folks are focusing on Western Wayne because you're kind of targeting your territory. So kind of want to just give that perspective a little bit from the mayor's office and what we're going towards right now, which is the publicity.
Okay, well, and I think that's a very important point, and we don't want it lost, and that is we're seeking to make sure that all the key elements, and as Hubert said earlier, the key institutions are in fact on board and on that side of the equation. And that seems to be the side of the equation at this point. Just listen to Jim Comey talk about all the things that were done to heighten the awareness and to keep people interested and to get their juices flowing about this thing. That's sort of what we're missing, the excitement part, to get people really engaged and get them connected to the problem in a way that they can really be part of the solution and not just observers or in the stands. And so that's really key, and that's why I was hoping to identify an opportunity to get in your shop some of the people that could funnel into some of the subgroups even that you're talking about, some of the sub-work groups.
And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to put my phone number out there for this.
You probably ought to say it again because some people hadn't even gotten their
313-226-9770. And I have voice.
Okay, David.
Chair, just to pick up on the point, that's exactly one of the things that we had to do in Richmond. It's an ongoing process. That changing of the culture from, and I'll never forget the analogy Jerry would always bring up about the old Western movies. You know, when someone robbed the bank, it wasn't just the sheriff. The sheriff would round up the posse. There was the regular citizens, and then together they would go out and catch the bag. That change in process of it's not just the law enforcement side, government side of the equation to make my neighborhood safe, you know, is the biggest thing. What we are is, for football analogy, especially this time of year, we're the defensive backs, okay? We've got the court system on it. We're the defensive backs. And what anybody that knows the game of football will tell you, if your defensive back is the one that's leading the team in tackles, you don't have a winning record. Because that means whoever's already got all the way to past the linebackers line, they're already back there when they get tackled, you know, they might go to Pro Bowl, but the team is going to be home watching. So that whole mentality of getting it back to the table and the citizens recognizing, no, we don't just sit, wait, and let the police do their thing and hope the right thing happens in court. We got to be out there on the front line too. And that 40,000 people, that's so impressive. Good gracious, that's incredible.
Yeah, it made a big difference, and as Mike said, and I think you were out of the room when Mike spoke, he said something about we're still benefiting the residual.
Right. No, I heard took off his
right.
Exactly right. Benefiting when people think, wow, people are really watching. It's a community involvement. Folks are looking out for their neighborhood. So.
And then, you know, and I always think that confidence is contagious. And so if we generated confidence during that period of time, I think we can probably generate confidence throughout, just by saying, listen, when you're engaged, great things happen in the community. When the citizens are engaged, great things happen, as they did for us on Angels Night. Well, we won't go on with this. Just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to kind of react to the purpose of this program, and that is really to highlight success and that it is possible for us. And somebody had in the back of their mind that, yeah, we're doing this, and you know, I don't know if we're ever really going to get there or really get it done. I can tell you that on being on the front end of the Richmond experience, when I got there, it was like, it's no way we can get this done. This is it's just huge. It's a huge problem. And so now, You know, coming to Detroit, people are saying, this is a huge problem. I mean, it's instant. We may not ever be able to get this done. And I'm saying, I don't think that's true. I think if we will it, if we want it in this community, we can get this done. We've got the right mechanisms in place, we've got the right administration, we've got the right mayor, we've got the right leadership. It's just a matter then of collecting our collective wills and all the resources and really setting out to get it done, setting some timelines and setting some objectives and meeting those objectives. I'm excited about the opportunity that we have. I'm excited about having this opportunity to talk about it because I think it should, as I indicated, at least create an opportunity for us to come together and to bring those resources to highlight perhaps people had forgotten some resources or some elements that we really need to have. And I want to thank, before I close out, I want to thank members of my staff. When we've traveled around the country doing these programs, in reality it's always been someone else that had put it together. But in this case, coming to Detroit, it was the Detroit Police Department staff working with the Police Foundation staff, with the Hubert staff, that really put this together, got the invitations out, and did the work today in really a very short period of time. So to Sharice and her staff, to Sergeant Drew in the back, to all the people who really worked hard to pull this together, I want to thank them. So can you just give them a big round? And I also want to thank each of you for taking your time. I know this is a busy time of the day. This is a busy season. I mean, this is the holiday season. People have lots of things on their agenda, but you chose to spend time with us today for the good of the city and for good of what we're trying to get accomplished. And I want to thank you all. And I want to stand ready to say that any suggestions, sometimes in a group like this, people are a little reluctant to raise their hand or say something, or even later on, if you're thinking about what was said here, you have another idea, something that you want to share. Please feel free to do that. I mean, I'm email-wise, I'm easy to get a hold of. Phone number-wise, I'm at the police department. The police department is an easy place to find. Please, informally or formally, send suggestions or ideas, because we want this to be a successful program, and we want to engage all of you in your creativity and your ideas to get it done. So, with that, Chris, do you have anything else? Carl, anything else? Anybody else? Okay, thank you so much for your time and your effort. Look forward to it.